Hi, this is Dominic. What I want to do in this IELTS listening video is talk to you briefly about the structure of the IELTS listening test and outline some of the skills you need to do it well. And the main point I want to make here is if you want to get better IELTS listening skills, please do not just do practice test, practice test, practice test. You're very unlikely to improve your skills that way. Let me try and explain why. The IELTS listening comes in 4 sections, and each section tests your listening in a slightly different way. Let me talk you through them. The first section is supposed to be the easiest section, but not for everybody. Here, you listen to 2 people talking in a social context. Maybe someone going into a bank and trying to open a new bank account. The topic of that listening should be nice and easy. The idea is that the topics there are topics which everybody who does IELTS should be able to understand. But there are difficulties in part 1. Very often you actually have to write down words. It's not a multiple choice section very often, but a note-taking section. And you need to develop your skills for notes. Also, a problem there is you don't listen for keywords. Listening for keywords only takes you part of the way. What you need to do is listen for the meaning of the conversation, because the way the questions are set are that one person will say something, shall we meet on Friday? And then the other person will say, no, not Friday, how about the next day, Saturday? And if you've only listening for the keyword Friday, you may get it wrong. But if you listen for meaning, if you follow the conversation, then you may get the right answer. That's part 1. Part 2, similar, it's also a social context. Here, though, you have just one person speaking, and you have to listen for longer, so recognise the problem. And here, one skill you need is the skill to read the questions first, predict what you're going to listen to. If you can read the questions, predict what you're going to listen to, you'll simply listen much better. Third section, again slightly different. Here, it's a discussion. Sometimes 3 people talking, certainly 2. And the topic they'll talk about is more complex. It will either be education or training. Very often here, the questions are multiple choice questions. And some of the answers look very similar. And this section in particular, you want to be careful of distractor questions. Distractor questions are questions which could be right, or answers which could be right, but are in fact wrong. And the skill you need here is not keywords again, bad advice if you ask me. The skill is listen for meaning. And you need to train your skills to listen for paraphrases, listen for meaning. The 4th section is supposed to be the hardest section. This is really for the people who are aiming for 6.5, 7 or above, trying to go to university or perhaps work professionally. What you hear is a lecture. This is harder, it goes on longer, but it's also harder because you'll be listening to unpredictable types of conversation. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, you can predict what it's going to be, everyday things, education, training. The lecture can be about anything. And there's a skill you need here, a precise skill. The skill you need is a skill to follow a lecture. because sometimes you may listen for a minute and there are no answers and you get lost and you may panic. What you've got to do is follow the course of a lecture and listen to what teachers sometimes call signpost words. Firstly, or now I'm going to talk about. And when you hear that sort of word, you think, right, now the answer is coming. Okay, that was a very brief overview of the IELTS listening test and its format. But the main message in this video is this. If you want to improve your listening skills, don't just listen. Don't do practice tests. What you need to do is learn to train your skills.